The screen fades into black. A whispering voice cuts through the silence. They say silence is golden, but in the court of one queen, silence was stitched into flesh. Imagine being a servant, daring to speak out of turn. Your words would be your last, because she had a punishment so grotesque, so merciless, that it defied all reason. She ordered their mouths sewn shut. This is not just a legend, it's a chilling story buried in the darkest corners of European history, and tonight, we're going to uncover it. To understand this horror, we must step back into a world where royalty was untouchable, where their word was law, and their cruelty often knew no limits. The Renaissance, a time we often remember for its art, music, and beauty, but behind the marble palaces and glittering gowns, there was another reality. Europe's noble courts were breeding grounds of ambition, betrayal, and fear. Queens and kings ruled with iron fists, their power absolute, and those who served them were nothing more than disposable pawns. In this world, punishments weren't just about discipline, they were about control, a performance of terror, meant to remind everyone who truly held power. Some rulers favored the whip, others imprisonment in dungeons deep beneath the castle stones. But one queen, she went further. Her name still stirs unease among historians, because her cruelty wasn't just efficient, it was theatrical. It was meant to humiliate, to silence, to erase defiance itself, and the method she chose was unlike anything seen before. Her name was Joanna of Castile. History remembers her by another title, Juana la Loca. Joanna the Mad, daughter of the powerful Catholic monarchs, Ferdinand of Aragon and Isabella of Castile. She was born into a dynasty that shaped the very soul of Spain, the same dynasty that financed Columbus's voyage, the same dynasty that expelled Jews and Muslims from Iberia in a ruthless wave of religious purging. From birth, Joanna's life was not her own. Every move she made was political, every word she spoke was weighed, judged, and whispered about. But behind the glittering veil of her royal image, rumors spread, rumors of cruelty, of punishment so grotesque, they blurred the line between legend and nightmare. Her court was not a safe place, it was a theater of fear. One chronicler describes how servants who angered her by speaking too loudly, gossiping about court secrets, or even disobeying a small command, were punished in ways that defied belief. And the most terrifying punishment of all was the one designed to rob them of the very thing they had misused, their mouths. The order was as chilling as it was precise: sew them shut. Imagine the scene: a dimly lit chamber, servants trembling, their knees buckling as guards drag in one unfortunate soul. The queen sits high on her chair, her eyes fixed with an eerie calm. This is not anger, this is calculation. Needles are prepared, thick thread glimmers in the torchlight, and as punishment, the servants' lips are pierced, sewn together like torn fabric. The screams are muffled, strangled by the very act of their silencing. Their face becomes a grotesque mask of agony, a living warning to everyone else in the room. This was not a quick execution. This was a performance, a show of power designed to freeze the court in terror. Some accounts even suggest that the queen forced other servants to watch, so the lesson would sink deeper. One wrong word, one mistake, and their lips too could be sealed forever. But here's the most unsettling part. This punishment didn't just silence the servant physically, it silenced them socially. With their mouths sewn shut, they could not eat without help, they could not speak, beg, or defend themselves. They became living ghosts within the palace walls. Reminders that in the queen's world, disobedience meant erasure. And yet, this story hides something even darker, because some historians argue that Joanna's cruelty was exaggerated, perhaps even invented, by her enemies, that the image of her sewing mouths shut was propaganda, a way to paint her as unhinged, monstrous, and unfit to rule. So which is it? Was she truly a queen of stitched silence? Or was she the victim of history's sharpest weapon, rumor? History is never simple, it rarely gives us a clean answer, and when it comes to Joanna of Castile, the truth is tangled, stitched, if you will, between fact and fiction. Because here's the chilling revelation: the image of Joanna ordering mouths to be sewn shut may never have happened at all, not literally. Instead, it may have been crafted, a story whispered by her enemies, magnified by chroniclers, and eventually fossilized into legend. Why? Because power was at stake, and nothing destroys a ruler faster than the perception of madness. Joanna had enemies everywhere. Her father, Ferdinand, wanted to control Castile even after her mother's death. Her husband, Philip the Handsome, craved power for himself. Both saw Joanna not as a queen, but as an obstacle, and what better way to remove an obstacle than to brand her insane? Documents from the time speak of her jealousy, her rage, her unpredictable moods. Chroniclers describe her wandering the palace halls at night, muttering to herself, screaming at shadows. Some even claim she carried her husband's corpse with her after his death, keeping him unburied for years, kissing his rotting lips, whether true or exaggerated. The image was enough to seal her fate. A mad queen could not rule, and so stories began to spread, stories of wild punishments, stories of uncontrollable cruelty, stories of mouths sewn shut. Think about it. What's more terrifying, a queen who shouts at her servants, or a queen who silences them forever with a needle and thread? One makes her unstable, the other makes her monstrous, and once a story like that takes root, it grows, it spreads like poison through the corridors of history, until it becomes impossible to separate fact from fable. So was Joanna cruel? Yes, perhaps. Many rulers of her age were, but was she truly the queen who sewed her servants' mouths shut? That remains a question without a clean answer, because the sources that accuse her are the very sources that sought to destroy her enemies. Ambitious men, chroniclers who served rival interests. The silence in her story may not be the silence of her servants, it may be the silence of truth itself, smothered by propaganda, and yet, whether it happened or not, the image remains, a queen, a needle, a servant silenced forever. It lingers because it speaks to something deeper, to our fear of rulers who hold absolute power, to the terror of being voiceless in the face of authority. So, was Joanna truly a queen of stitched silence, or was she a prisoner of stories designed to break her? The chronicles of her time leave us with fragments, half-truths, rumors, and accusations sharpened into daggers. We may never know whether her servants really endured that grotesque punishment. But perhaps that's the point, because history itself is sewn together from whispers, threads of fact, bound tightly with threads of lies, and over time, the stitches become so tight, we can no longer tell them apart. For Joanna, the punishment was silence, whether through the cruelty of her hand, or the cruelty of her enemies. Her reign became a warning, not just about madness, not just about power, but about the terrifying cost of having no voice. Silence is the most dangerous weapon of all.